Hello, Namaskar, and once again, a very good evening to all the viewers watching our session out there. This is Simran Singh, and you are watching this particular live interactive session of NCERT on eVidya channel number 6 to 12. Besides, we have so many different mediums through which you all can connect with us and you can participate in our live telecast with the help of your queries, your messages, and by sharing your feedback with us. One of the other mediums is our YouTube channel that you all are well versed with. It is NCERT official. So it's around 4 p.m. on your watch, and I would like to welcome you to the second day of our online training running on media literacy. Now we all know, as we discussed, that yesterday was the first day of our media literacy online training series, and we talked on media literacy, the policy perspective, the concept, need and scope. Media literacy and its concept is very crucial to the health and well-being of learners, and in the world nowadays media is an integral part of our lives. So of course we need to understand this concept in depth. So very quickly I'll provide you a glance of what are we going to discuss for the next 3 days in the online training series. And today the topic of the conversation would be media literacy, competency and skills. Tomorrow, that would be the third day of our online training session, we are going to share more details on advertising literacy, and on the fourth day, that is on 23rd of February, we will elaborate more on teaching learning in media and information literacy. And towards the concluding day of our 5 days online training series running on media literacy, will provide you more information on media literacy and non-violence communication. So let me also apprise you that we are running these training series in collaboration with Indian Institute of Mass Communication. So very quickly, let me introduce you to the guest of our today's conversation. We are joined by Professor Anubhuti Yadav. She was there yesterday also, and ma'am, today also we would like to welcome you in the conversation. Good evening.
Thank you.
Ma'am is the head at Department of New Media and Technology at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, New Delhi. And before commencing this discussion, I would like to inform you a small piece of information regarding G20. We are proud that India assumed the G20 presidency and will convene the G20 Leaders Summit for the first time in the country in this year, that is 2023. The nation is deeply committed to democracy and multilateralism. India's G20 presidency would be a watershed moment in her history, as it seeks to play a very major role by finding pragmatic global solutions for the well-being of everyone, and in doing so manifest the true spirit of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, or the world is one family. So viewers, in this live discussion, if you have any of the queries, then here are different mediums that are displayed on your screens. The first one is our contact number. So feel free to give us a call at 8800-440-559. Then we also have our mail ID flashing on your screens. You may kindly note it down. It is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in. So without further ado, let's begin this conversation. I'll request Professor Anubhuti Yadav to apprise our viewers more about media literacy, competency and skills.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, a very good afternoon to all of you. And as said, that this is the second day of the training program on media and information literacy, which Indian Institute of Mass Communication and NCERT are organizing in collaboration. Yesterday, we had a long discussion on need and scope for media and information literacy. And all the panelists who were there yesterday talked about the need for media and information literacy in today's digital era. Today, the focus would be more on skills and competencies, and we'll be talking about what are the skills required to be a media and information literate, and what are the competencies required. So these are a few things which we are going to talk about in today's session. So yesterday, many of you might be attending this particular training program on media and information literacy for the first time, and many of you were introduced to this concept of media and information literacy for the first time. So I'm sure that many of you might be trying to search content related to media literacy, and you might have chanced upon, number of terms related to media and information literacy. There are a number of terms which are being used, and these are the terms which are used interchangeably many a times by the people who are researching in this particular area, academicians, even like the practitioners. So you would find the terms like media literacy, advertising literacy, news literacy, cinema literacy, games literacy, information literacy. So all these literacy, what we are talking about, this actually tells us that there is a need for the mediated societies to have media literate citizens. So any society or any country wherein we have, such vibrant media, the way we have in India, and this is something which we discussed yesterday also, a country like India, wherein 70,000 plus newspapers are published every day, where we have 800 plus satellite channels, and we have more than 1,000 radio station. So we are living in a mediated society, and we are receiving a lot of messages every second. And that's why it's very important for people to be media literate, for the citizens to be media literate, so that they can navigate through all these messages. And one very important thing which we discussed yesterday was, and that is the essence of media and information literacy, is that when we talk about media and information literacy, the attempt and the main objective of it is to minimize the harmful effect of media messages and maximize the positive impact of media messages, through media and information literacy. So but yes, for this you require a lot of competencies. But when we talk about media and information literacy, we are talking from the side of audience. We are talking about audiences, how they should be consuming content, how they should be consuming media messages, rather than talking about people who are creating media messages. When we talk about audiences, in the media and information literacy, we look at audiences in two different ways. The one is, when we talk about the audiences, they are vulnerable, and they are passive audience, which means that when they watch something, or when they read something, or when they are looking at the content on internet, they get influenced by them. They are the people who are not asking questions, they are not engaging in critical thinking. So these are the kind of audiences we have. And another one is like, when we talk about the audiences, you have powerful and capable audiences who are questioning media messages, who are asking right sort of questions. So these are the two kind of audiences we talk about when we talk about media and information literacy. And definitely when we talk about vulnerable and passive audiences, there have been instances in the past wherein we know that people fall for the content which is coming from media, mainly from the television. There have been instances in the past, say for example in US there was this one program which was broadcasted, War of World, and that program was actually made in the format of a news. And it was based on one science fiction, and it was about the invasion of aliens. Now the way that particular program was made, and because the format which was used was a news format, and when it was aired, there was a chaos there, and people felt that this is something which is exactly happening, and they were trying to leave their homes. So that was the impact of media message. And of course, like here we are talking about those audiences which are vulnerable, which are passive, those who are not asking right kind of questions. But yes, yesterday we also discussed about the different theories. We talked about theory uses and gratification, wherein we say that the audiences, they themselves seek out content which they feel is relevant to them, which they feel is important for them, which they feel can fulfill their purpose. So these are the two kind of audiences we actually talk about. So when we are talking about these audiences, so for example when you're talking about the vulnerable and passive, so the media and information literacy intervention, as it is said, it could be inoculating consumers against bad media messages. images or protecting them from harmful media content. So here we are talking about the protectionist way of looking at media, and that's the media and information side we are talking about. But when you're talking about the powerful and capable audiences, we're talking about empowering them through giving them knowledge about the media system and critical thinking. So in fact, when the whole debate on media and information literacy started across the world, it started with this assumption that the audiences, they are very vulnerable, the audiences are very passive, and they are not asking right kind of questions, and they are being influenced by the content which is coming on television. And especially, like, there was a research done by George Governor, wherein it was said that the people who are watching a lot of violent programs, they tend to believe that the world is an aggressive place. And there have been a lot of researches which have been done which says that the children who are watching a lot of violent programs, they adopt aggressive behavior. So this the whole debate on media and information literacy actually started with those sort of audiences. Right now, of course, like, we don't look at that way. We always look at look at audiences as active, powerful people who are actually trying to make sense of what they are watching. So it's not like that, but still, there are a number of occasions where we have seen that people falling for misinformation, and this is something which has happened a lot at the time of the pandemic. So as I said, that if you look at the historical perspective of media and information literacy, so it all started with this premise that the audiences are vulnerable and passive, and it all started, because the society, the teachers, they were very concerned about young population. They were watching a lot of violent programs, and that's how it all started. And the questions initially, like when we talk about media and information literacy, was raised by not the teachers who are working in the field of media, but the teachers who were directly teaching students in schools and colleges. And of course, there were a lot of grassroots movement also. So there are a lot of teachers who felt that students are being influenced, and they started this particular movement on media and information literacy. And these movements were like there from 1960s to 90s, wherein school teachers, they were doing a lot of activities, workshops, and trying to understand this whole concept, how media messages are affecting kids or younger population. And up to 80s, when we talk about media and information literacy, the interest in this particular area was concentrated in few countries like Canada, USA, UK, France. So these were the countries wherein it started. There were a lot of research was happening in these countries, but it didn't reach, say for example, country like India. When we talk about country like India, I remember in 2006 we started working on this particular area, in NCRT, when we developed a curriculum for class 11th and 12th, when we established media clubs across the country. So that was the time it was started. But yes, there were very few initiatives which were there at that point of time, but they were very few in a number, and there was nothing which was happening at the government level. So for long, it was left aside by the governments, educational institutions, technology firms. So they didn't have any interest in this particular, area or in this particular subject. So, and that is something which is not good, in the sense that when we talk about media, it's a very important part of students' lives. And whenever, like, any curriculum framework is being made, I think media literacy should be part of that particular thing. But what happened was that with the advancement of new technologies, when all these social media platforms came, there were a lot of changes in the societies because of the way people were consuming content. At that point of time, media literacy became the matter of public policy in number of countries. And another thing which had happened was that because of the rise in misinformation and disinformation, everybody across the world realized that media and information literacy could be a solution for this. And it took us pandemic to understand, and what was happening at the time of the pandemic, to understand what misinformation and disinformation can do in a society. And that was the time when a lot of initiatives, even at the government level, at the non-government level, even the technology platforms like Google, Meta, Twitter, they came on board and they did a lot of training program workshops on media and information literacy. Now, when you talk about national education policy doesn't mention media literacy as such, but there is a mention of critical thinking at number of places. So the people like us, or the people like you, all the teachers who are watching this particular program, here's the occasion, and there is the space for all of us to include media and information literacy in our curriculum. So when we talk about critical thinking, of course you require a lot of activities to promote critical thinking or to teach critical thinking to students. And from media and information literacy, you can create a lot of activities and engage your students in that to promote that critical thinking. So despite the fact we do not find any space for media and information literacy per se, but since like there's a lot of mention of critical thinking, so I feel that there's still a room to integrate media and information literacy in our curriculum. So now coming on to what exactly is it? We've talked about the need, we've talked about the scope of it, we've talked about, in bits and pieces, what is happening in our country and what is happening world over. But what exactly media and information literacy means? So if you look at the definition of media and information literacy, it is very simple, and it says that it's an ability to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. So, if you're able to access content in a right way, if you're able to reach on to accurate, authoritative sources for any piece of information, you are media and information literate. If you're able to analyze content, which means if you're able to ask right sort of questions, you are media and information literate. If you're able to create stuff, there was a time when we used to talk about media and information literacy. We used to limit it only till that people should be able to analyze media messages. But nowadays, the focus is also on creating content. Because if you create content, only then you'll be able to know what happens when other people, the content creators, when they create content. And act is important because many a times we have this concern that okay, these programs are not good, advertisements are not in good taste, this is something which is derogatory, but we don't do anything about it. So media and information literacy says that it's not just the analysis of it, but you also need to act on that, what you can do when you see such piece of information. So these are the things which comes under media and information literacy, and we'll be talking about all these things in detail. Now, there are five major concepts of in media literacy. The first concept of the media literacy is that all media messages are constructed. And with all these concepts arises certain key questions related to media. And the question that arises with this is who created this message. Now when we talk about this, that all media messages are constructed, when I'm saying all media messages, that includes everything. That also includes the kind of presentation which I'm making right now, because as a teacher I have constructed this particular presentation. I have decided that what is important for my target audience and what is not important. So in the process of preparing this presentation, I might have included certain things, but I might have excluded a lot of things from this particular presentation. So when you're talking about this concept, there are two insights which emerges. The one is the constructedness of the media text, and the second one is the choices. Now, see, when you look at the media programs, media text, it looks very real, it looks very natural, but it's not like that, right? So all the messages are made by someone. For example, when I say the media messages are constructed, they're constructed exactly like when the people are constructing, buildings, or maybe like certain products wherein a plan is made. There is a team which works on number of things. They put it all together and then they present it to their target audience. This is how it is being made. It is not just the depiction of a reality. So, and in the process, what happens in the process, lot of choices, happens at the level of the content creators. So for example, if you see in advertisements, there are a lot of shots for that particular advertisements, but what are the shots which are being chosen for, that final ad? So ultimately what happens that we end up watching content which are decided by the content creators and based on the choices of the content creators. And then we feel that, oh, this is something which is very natural and something which is very real, which exactly it is not, because it is their choices, and based on that they had created that particular product. Now, the success of any product, media text, is its apparent naturalness. So which means, if it looks natural, people will relate to it, the people will like that particular content, but there's a lot goes into to make a product like that. But at the end of it, whether it's a serial or an advertisement or a news program or a teacher delivering his or her lecture, all messages are constructed in nature. So at this point of time, the question arises, who is creating this message? Who are these people? And while they're creating these messages, what are the choices they are actually making? That becomes extremely important. And these are the kind of questions which we have to ask, as media and information literate audiences. Another very important concept is media messages are constructed using creative language with its own grammar. And the question which arises with this is that what creative techniques are used to attract my attention? So understanding the grammar, the syntax, metaphor, not only help us in making us less susceptible to this manipulation, but increases our appreciation and enjoyment of, the media messages. So you might have seen, in newspaper, the kind of colors which are given to, certain headlines, or the type of font size which are being used, or when you're watching television, the kind of camera angle. These are all the language and the grammar of media. And using this, they are making certain thing important, and they're making certain thing, less important. And they're using these techniques to attract our attention. So we need to find out that, okay, what is in it this program? Or maybe say, for example, if you're watching this particular slide, what is it in this slide which is done deliberately to attract the attention of the person who's listening to this lecture or watching this lecture. So in this case, I would say that the red color which I have used is basically, I just want to there's 5 concepts in media literacy to stand out. So these are the grammars basically to attract the attention of your target audience. Third thing is that the different people experience the same media message differently. How might different people understand this message differently from me? I mean, this is the question that arises from this important concept. Now, one message can be interpreted differently by different people, and that's totally based on their education, the culture they are from, maybe like their age. So no two messages would be consumed in a same way by all the people. They will interpret it in a different way. But one thing is for sure that the people who are creating content, they would like to create content in such a way that it should be consumed by everyone in the same fashion. For example, if we are talking about anti-smoking campaign, so we would like that each one of the target audience should consume this content in the same way. But in that case also, there could be a variation. So the attempt is that, but people do receive content in different ways based on their backgrounds. Fourth is, media are primarily businesses driven by profit motive. And the question which arises from this is why this message is being said. Of course, the job of a media is to inform, to entertain, but other than that, it's a business, right? So, they want to make money, they want to sustain in the market, and that's why, when the newspaper are being produced, the first thing is that the advertisements are placed, and then the news stories are placed in the newspaper. Same goes for the television channels. You might have seen newspaper wherein the front page is the entire advertisements. So the whole idea is that they would like to sell that particular product, or maybe like the sponsor's product. So in this case, why is this message being sent? What is the objective behind it? How much is the information, and how much is like someone is trying to sell something? Or it's not that, say for example, when you watch television, it is said that this program is brought to you by this sponsor. But ultimately what happens is that because of that advertisement, you are taken to that sponsor rather than the sponsor bringing you the content. So that's the difference, and that's the difference which we have to understand as media and information literate citizens. And the fifth point is, and which is very important, is that the media have embedded values and point of view. What lifestyle, values, point of views are represented in or omitted from this message. Again, when we are saying that it is constructed, we are saying that based on the choices of certain people. So the people who are creating that particular content, their values, their attitude, the kind of lifestyle they want to portray, if they select a one particular character, what would be the age, what would be the race, everything is decided by them. And when they are deciding certain things, as I said before, there are certain things included and there are a lot of things which are excluded. There are certain things which are given a lot of importance, and there are certain things which are actually not given importance, despite the fact that those are the issues that need to be told to the society. So these are five major concepts in media and information literacy, extremely important, because all the questions which we talk about media and information literacy arises from all these four core concepts of five concepts of media literacy. Now, what are the media literacy competencies? Now, these media literacy competencies comes from the definition which we had just discussed, which means access. You need to access content in an accurate manner. You should know how to reach to those authoritative sources, accurate sources, credible sources. You need to know what are those 5, 6 questions which you need to ask when you watch any media text. You also need to know how to create content. So for example, if someone asks you that create one public service announcement on anti-smoking, or like anti-drinking, or maybe like social distancing, so you should be in a position to make them reflect your own behavior. That's something which we usually miss, because many a times, and especially like with the new technologies, the way we are behaving on social media, we don't even think the way we are behaving. Without even thinking, we forward certain messages, we like certain things. So we need to reflect on our own media consumption behavior. Why am I watching the content which is coming there on screen? What is it I'm getting from this? What will I receive or get if I forward that particular thing? Why am I forwarding this particular message? So these are the reflective questions which we need to ask. And as I said before, act. What do you do? So now, all these competencies, let's try and apply these competencies to what happened at the time of the coronavirus outbreak, or at the time of the pandemic. We all know that, when we talk about pandemic, it actually generated tsunami of misinformation. And it happens at the time of any crisis. There will always be a lot of misinformation and disinformation if the accurate information is not coming from a credible source. So this happened at the time of the pandemic, because initially nobody knew what exactly it is. And that was the time when it was important to sift fact from fiction. So DGWHO at that point of time also said that we are not only fighting infodemic, we are epidemic, we are also fighting infodemic. So that was like one of his initial conferences wherein he talked about this. WHO, for the first time, when they realized that a lot is happening because of misinformation and disinformation around COVID-19, around vaccination, and there was vaccine hesitancy amongst a lot of people. So they started this one section on their website, which is called Mythbusters. And on this section, they actually debunked a lot of misinformation, which was trending at that point of time, telling people to do certain things. And of course, like these misinformation and disinformation was trending and viral more on social media. But there were occasions wherein the mainstream media had also covered that particular thing. So, for example, they came out with infographics on their website wherein they were debunking the content. So this was initially like when it was said that hydroxychloroquine will cure you of corona. So they debunked this thing. There was a rumor wherein it was said that it can spread through mosquito bites. So they debunked this. It was said that if you add a lot of pepper and salt to your soup and drinks, it will cure you of corona. So they debunked this also. Imagine this, and this is something which was there, across the world. And it says that the 5G networks are responsible for spreading COVID-19, and they debunked, this piece of information also. And there was this rumor that if you drink alcohol, it will cure you of corona. So that was also debunked. So these are some of the media and information literacy initiative at that point of time done by WHO, the organization which was responsible of managing this entire crisis at that point of time. What was happening in our country at that point of time? Press Information Bureau, which comes under Information and Broadcasting Ministry, they also have a help desk, and they have a fact-checking desk wherein what they say is that we will fact check content which are related to public government policies and programs. So anybody can write to them, they can send them any content to fact check, and they'll do it for you. And this is what they have done at the time of the pandemic. There have been a lot of such infographic doing around that there is a some yojana wherein 50,000 will be given to ration card holder. There was this news item, and see, this looks like a news item. It looks that it appeared in a newspaper that since people were limited to their homes, they were not going to their offices. Once everything opened, they had to work from 9 to 7. Then there was this one wherein the form was circulated, and it was said that 4,000 scholarship will be given to English medium school students. Again, it was said that the retirement age will be reduced to 50 in the coronavirus crisis, and they fact checked all this thing with a fake stamp on all such misinformation. So how do you navigate such infodemic? So the first thing is that whenever there is a health emergency or any emergency, say for example right now the board exams are going to start, or maybe like all the entrance exams are going to start, and you being teachers, you are dealing with this a lot, and every time you see a lot of misinformation related to that. Okay, this is the date for this, or they have extended the date for XYZ exam. So how do you deal with such emergency? So in case of COVID-19, the first thing was that when we talk about any health emergency, we require what? Authoritative and correct information on the virus. We want scientific ways to keep yourself safe, knowledge about preventive measures, information about medical remedies, awareness about how to deal with medical emergencies. These are the things which you required at that point of time, or in any emergency. These are the kind of questions which comes to your mind, that okay, I need to know this particular thing, or this is the information which I would like to have. And most importantly, you also need to identify, and you should know how to identify fake news and stay away from it, because this is something which is happening a lot nowadays. And yesterday we talked about this fact that we have 825 million internet users. So they are not only the consumers of content, they're also potential producers of content. So if you have so many people who have, and they have this possibility that they can create content, so any sort of content will be generated. So we need to stay away from fake news also. So now coming on to this, how do you access uh, you know uh, properly, and being a media and information literate person. So the first thing is that for any issue, whether we are talking about education, or we are talking about COVID-19, or we are talking about something which is related to climate, we need to know what are those authoritative websites. We need to know, like, what is that credible source we should go to find information on this. We also need to understand that when we search content on Google, there are a lot of results, millions of results will come. Not all of them are accurate. Google is only indexing the content which has been created by a lot of people. And we know anybody can create any website. So it is our responsibility to know that, okay, these are the authoritative website on this particular issue. For example, when you talk about COVID-19, WHO, Centers for Disease and Control, Food and Drug Administration, Ministry of Family Health and Family Welfare, Indian Council for Medical Research, state departments. So these were some of the websites you should refer to, or their social media platforms, or their social media handles you should refer to if you want to find information on this. Maybe, like, if you want to have government information on any of these, the PIB is, or their Twitter handle is one place wherein you could go and you can find that particular thing. If you are into teaching, if you come across something, the first thing you should do is you go to CBSE, or you go to NCRT, go to NIOS, you should look at their Twitter handle. Then WHO started their own WhatsApp number. It was available. Unfortunately, they did a lot of things, but it didn't reach people. And then, of course, like when we talk about the government, MyGov Corona Help Desk was available there. Another very important thing which we have to do, and when we are talking about accessing content, is that we need to know how to access content. We need to know how to search content. As I said before, there's a lot of content available, right? But your job as a teacher, or your job as a student, to reach to the content which is the most relevant to you. So how do you do that? There are a lot of techniques which are available for this, so that you find right sort of content. One is the way you search. Usually what we do, when we are searching content on Google, we just type a search query and try and find out, where that particular term has been used. But there are different ways of doing it. Say, for example, there are certain Boolean queries. Those who are into computers, I mean, they know it well. But these are only search operators. For example, if you have to find out information, you can put and or. You can use quotation mark for that. If you want to have know about first-hand experiences of something, so with that particular keyword, write the words like I, me, myself. So a lot of result related to their first-hand experience will appear. Group similar keywords in parentheses, that is something which you can do. And then these are few ways of finding right sort of content. Also, I mean, these are other operators which are there. For example, if you want to find content only in government websites, right? So you have to see that, okay, you are searching in the content in that domain, the government domain, so that you get result related to COVID-19 only from the government websites. And there are a lot of such Boolean queries, search operators which are available. A lot of cheat sheets are there. I think you should have them try maybe like 2 or 3 in a day, see how it works. I'm not saying that's the only solution, but yes, it will make your work very, very easy when it comes to finding information on internet. And not only easy, it will be more efficient. So these are some of the search operators which and it is available on internet. Now, when it comes to analyzing, what are the kind of question you should be asking? The first thing is that when you're analyzing the content, the first thing is the source, and you need to find out, is the source credible and authentic? Then comes the content. Is the content believable or is it outlandish? So many a times the content is like, okay, it's very outlandish, right? So too good to be true. But still a lot of people fall for that content. So you need to look at, the tone and tenor of that content also, how it is written, the kind of language which is being used. You might have seen, a lot of official letters doing round, that okay, this is an official letter which is coming from this particular ministry, and the ministry said this, but that's fake. How do you know that that's fake? You just need to read that particular letter. You should find for the spelling mistakes in that, because of course, if it is not a genuine one, you might find certain spelling mistakes in that. And then of course, maybe like letterhead. And the way the content is being written. So these are few things which you should be asking, when it comes to content. Then, does the news quote authoritative sources? When you read a piece of news, who is this particular reporter quoting? When it comes to COVID-19, of course, like, we would like to listen not to just the reporter or just the person who had created the message, but the people who have expertise in this particular area. So we would like to know that who that particular doctor is who is talking about this particular issue. So, or who this teacher is, or who this researcher is. So who is being quoted as an authoritative source in that particular news item. Then, is it a social media post that is compelling you to forward? Many a times, you receive post wherein it is said that forward it to 10 people, or maybe forward it to 100 people. This will happen to you. So if any message comes to you with that particular intention, I think you need to stop, and you need to spend some time, and you need to figure out, whether it is worth forwarding or not. And then last is the content inciting extreme emotions? If any content is making you very happy, or if any content is making you very sad or angry, then you need to think about it. And any news from a questionable source that is unbelievable and compels you to share and forward needs verification. You need to verify that particular content. If you can not do it, then maybe what you can do is ask someone, right? Take help from people. It's okay to take help from people rather than falling for the misinformation which you are getting. So these are some of the sample questions when it comes to analyzing the content. When it comes to authorship, which means who made this content, who are the people behind this. Then purposes, why was this made? What does this want me to do? Does this want me to take any action? So what action does this want, this particular message wants me to take? Who is the target audience for this? Who are they talking to? Or who is this for? So these are questions. Economics means who paid for this. For example, it becomes very important in media and information literacy, because here you also about the ownership structure of the media. I mean, who paid for this particular message? Is it like the article which I'm reading, it has been created by the people who are working there, or is it an editorial piece wherein someone has paid newspaper to write this article? So who paid for this content? Then effects, who might benefit from this message? And this is the question I have to ask every time, that if I believe this, if I forward this, so I am not benefiting from this, but who is it who's benefiting from this particular message? Who might be harmed with it? Is this message good for me or people like me? What does the storyteller want me to remember? And then, of course, responses also. What actions might I take in response to this message? How might I participate productively in this? How does this make me feel, and how do my emotions influence my interpretation of this particular message? So these are the questions which one should be asking. These are all available in the NAMLI website. And for the content, what does this to think? What would someone learn from this? What does this tell me about? What ideas, value, information, or point of views are overt? What is left out that might be important to know? There are a lot of messages in which, even in the news stories, there are a lot of things which are not being included, but they are otherwise important. techniques, what techniques are used and why. How do the techniques communicate that particular message? And then, of course, like the interpretation, how might different people understand the same message? So these are, the questions one need to ask, when you are analyzing any content. Context is also very important. When was this made? Whenever there is any accident or maybe air crash, you're flooded with, your WhatsApp groups are flooded with, a lot of content, pictures, visuals, saying that, this is something which had happened right now. But when you fact check that, when you verify that, you would get to know that this is something which happened maybe like 5 or 6 years back. So when was this made? When was this content made? That's something which is very important. Where or how was it shared with the public? So these are the questions which one should be asking related to the content. Now, coming on to reflecting. Am I compulsively forwarding WhatsApp post without verifying? Regularly sharing sensitive posts that suits my line of thinking? Mindlessly retweeting anything that suits my judgment? So we need to, reflect on our own behavior. And if we are doing any of these, right, so we need to stop, and we need to also stop contributing to the misinformation myths. So act. Now that's another thing. Now when you say act, there are a lot of misinformation, disinformation, as I said before. If you want to verify that, if you want to fact check that, one is that you can do it yourself. There are certain skills available for that. Also, there are certain tools which are available for that. But right now, what I'm telling you is that who can come to your help when you would like to fact check or verify any content. So there are, if you go to a IFCN website, there are a lot of WhatsApp numbers. There are a lot of numbers. These numbers are of different fact checking organizations. So maybe like you can take their help. Maybe you can take help of PIB if you come across anything which is related to government policies and program. There's something called Google Fact Check Tools, Fact Check Explorer. So you just type that keyword, it will give you all the fact check stories related to that. So for example, board exam 2023. And if the story has been fact checked, it will appear there. So it's like a search engine, but the search engine only retrieves the content which has been fact checked by different fact checking organization. Another very important thing, I don't know how many of you have noticed this, when you are searching content on Google, say for example, I type the search query media and information literacy. Against all searches, you have these three dots. When you click on these three dots, it will tell you more about the result. It will tell you the source of this particular information. It will also tell you more about this page. It will tell you more about this organization website. So for example, in this case, this is the source. And when I clicked more about this page, this is like the Council of Europe, and there are a lot of results related to that. So it's not just finding the content on Google. You click on those three dots to get to know more about the source, whether the source is credible or not. And then the last one is report. As I said, it's not just like complaining. If you find something wrong, you find something objectionable, you need to report on that. Again, when we talk about Google and you read a lot of articles there, you click on any article, you're reading something, and you think that in that article something is wrongly written. It is inaccurate representation of something. So what you can do is you go down below, and you can click on send feedback. There will be a form there. You can select the portion which you would like to complain about, and then you can send it to the platform. Same happens in Facebook. There are three dots. You can report ad, you can report any post, and this will happen. There are a lot of organizations also which are responsible for the content which has been put out. Say for example, when we talk about advertisements, for advertisement we do have Advertising Standard Council of India, and there they have a form. So it's a complaint form. If you think that there is some advertisement which is not in good taste, you can fill this up, and you can send your complaint, and you can track your complaint also. For the news, you have News Broadcaster Association. Again, there is a form available for this. For Indian Broadcasting Foundation, again, you see a lot of programs, and if you feel that something is in bad taste, you fill up this form and you can send it to them. For press, for newspaper, you have Press Council of India. Can you imagine? I mean, this is something which we would have never expected, maybe like 5 years from before, 10 years before, that Delhi police also have a section on their website which is fake news verification, because they know that there's a lot of problem which is being created in this case Delhi, because of the rumors and because of misinformation and disinformation. So you can send it to them also. So wherever this information coming from, the biggest thing in media and information literacy is to ask question and to act on that. This is the last example which I would like to give you. This is the tweet which was made by Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. All of you might be a fan of Amitabh Bachchan the way I am. But this happened, at the time of the pandemic, when our Prime Minister said that we need to lit diyas and candles to show solidarity for the health workers. And that was the time when we knew that this is going to happen. And the next day, this infographic was doing round, wherein it was shown that, okay, the entire world was in dark. And since people in India were like lighting candles and diyas, so the India is the only country, which was well lit. So, and you would know, if you look at this map carefully, that this is not at all possible, to have a picture like this, because if India is lit, then there are certain countries wherein the day will be there, so that should also be well lit. So in such case, what you should do, even if it is by your favorite superstar, you should call it out. You should tweet about this and say that, sir, this is the mistake you have made, or maybe you would like to delete this particular tweet. So these are the simple things which we have to do if we really want people to be media and information literate. I have a book on media and information literacy, which I co-authored with Professor Art Silverblad from Webster University and Dr. Vedavyas Kundu from Gandhi Smriti. He will be coming on the last day to talk to you all about media literacy and nonviolent communication, but it's available Amazon. So you want to buy this, you can do that. Another book which I would like you people to refer is Mass Media Being Media Literate. This is something which we have prepared for CBSE. It's available on their website, so you can do that also. These are two books which I would like, and these are open resource. You can download it anytime. This is Think Critically, Click Wisely. I discussed about this book yesterday also. And the second one is Understanding Media Information Literacy in the Digital Age. And the last one is Media and Information Literacy Curriculum for Teachers. So these are the few open resources which are available for all of you, if in case you want to know more about media literacy. So thank you so much, and pleasure talking to all of you. Thank you.
Details regarding media literacy, the competency and the skills with all our viewers, and today's session has turned out to be very productive and informative. As I could see, there are beautiful comments pouring in the comment section of our YouTube channel. So many viewers, if I could read a few, like Satya ji says it's a very informative session. Then a lot of viewers are thanking you in the comment section for bringing this topic to light and for sharing it at length with us. So, well, it says all. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
And in the conversation, we have few minutes left. So, viewers, very quickly, let me take you across our website so that you can get to know all about the 5 days online training session. So, this is the home page of CIET website, www.ciet.nic.in. So, once you land upon this home page, in order to get more information about these training sessions, all you have to do is under links just select workshop/training. It is the third last option, and when you will be clicking on this, you will get 3 kinds of activities will be displayed on this page: current activity, upcoming activity, and the completed activity. So, let's get to know more about it. Under current activity, that is the online training on media literacy. So, here you can get access to all the information regarding the 5 days online training sessions. It's a detailed banner against the day, the date and the name of the resource persons and the esteemed panelists who are sharing the valuable details with us through their extensive experience in the field. So today is the second day of our online training session. It's as you all know that it's about to be 5 p.m. So very quickly let me share the details about the post session activity. So the program schedule is right there. So how you all can participate in the post session activity, that is our quiz. So number one is registration. You can register yourself by clicking on the link or scanning the QR code. Then you can watch our live panel discussion on different mediums. As you all know, you can connect with us through NCRT official, through eVidya channel number 6 to 12. Besides, other mediums are also specifically mentioned for you. Step number 3 is participation in the post session activity and certification. So you can participate in the post session quiz, score 70% and above to get a certificate. This means if you score over 70%, then you are eligible to receive a certificate from CIET NCRT. The link will be uploaded on the concluding day of our 5 days online training session, that is on 24th February, and the closing date, that is you have the entire 1 month to submit your entries. The closing date would be 24th March 2023, and towards the end you all know that your feedback matters a lot to us. So here is the feedback form. It's our Google form. Do share your experiences, your learnings and your suggestions by clicking on it and filling it. Then you can also reach out to us at our mail ID in case of doubts. It is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in. Besides, we also have our contact number, that is 8800440559. Now it's time for me to wrap up this conversation for all of you. Tomorrow is the day 3 of this online training session running on media literacy, and let me apprise you that tomorrow we are going to discuss and shed more light on advertising literacy. So before concluding today's conversation, an important piece of information regarding G20. We are proud that India assumed the G20 presidency and will convene the G20 Leaders Summit in 2023. The nation is deeply committed to democracy and multilateralism. The G20 presidency will be a watershed moment in the history of India, as well as it also approaches to find pragmatic global solutions for the well-being of everyone, and in doing so manifest the true spirit of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, or the world is one family. So viewers, it's time to conclude this conversation, but stay connected. Next up we have our Sahyog session, and keep watching eVidya channels. Namaskar.